Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another one of our videos. In today's episode of TCG Toolkit, we'll be going over Pokemon mystery items. eBay's newest scam? So, without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. Now, in my view, mystery items are actually split up into two different groups. The first, that we're not going to spend a lot of time on, is mystery boxes. Mystery boxes are these fixed priced goods, so you might see a listing for $5,000, and typically they will be large value. If you're a fan of many famous or larger PokeTubers, you know that there are quite a few reputable sellers for Pokemon mystery boxes of large values. It works on a pretty simple basis. You buy the box, there's that much value in the box plus some. What's good about mystery boxes is that they're an awesome way to spend some money that you don't necessarily have a particular demand for. So you might have $100, you might say, hey, surprise me. And this is a great way to kind of get a surprise. However, you should note that for as many big and popular Pokemon openings there are, you should realize there are very few reputable sellers online that you should trust to sell you a mystery box. So I still urge everyone to be very, very careful about who they're doing business with. Obviously, there are some huge names in the community, and you should probably be, at minimum, heading towards their stores and their shops in order to purchase your mystery boxes. Now, with that said, mystery boxes work on a pretty simple principle of list price. So basically, take for example a Gold Star Latios. So I recently sold a Gold Star PSA 7 Latios for about $256 at auction. So this was a free auction where people would go in. Pretty much works just the way any other auction on eBay would. And as you can see on screen right now, there is currently, as of yesterday, also a listed PSA 7 Latios selling for $356, which is actually a markdown from $379. So there's about $100 difference there. So in theory, the way that mystery boxes work is that you purchase things at list price, not at auction price. So although you could have waited and purchased this at a later time for a cheaper price, you're purchasing basically everything at list price. Now, realistically, I think this is fair. It would basically be like saying, instead of purchasing a $5,000 mystery item, why don't I just buy everything from your store at the list price that you are asking? And again, in my opinion, I think it's fair as long as that's the kind of principle that they work on and it's not something crazy. It should also be noted that list prices shouldn't be in extreme or in extremis of the auction price. So maybe if there's a 10 to 30% markup, that's relatively fair. However, if you're seeing something where it auctions off for $100 and these people are claiming the quote-unquote list price or worth of the item is $500, obviously they're saying it's worth 5 times what it sells for at auction, and that's why people tend to have issues with mystery boxes. With that said, it's important, again, that you purchase from a reputable seller. You'll notice most reputable sellers will not only send you $5,000 worth of list price value, but on top of that, they usually throw in some extra stuff because of the principle that I just explained. Because realistically, there is a little bit of buffer room for them to go ahead and add some extra value for you, and that's typically how mystery boxes work. Now, a subscriber wrote in and told me about a story that they saw on eBay, and the only reason they know the story is because they caused the story to happen. And it all happened because of the second category of mystery items. So there are mystery boxes, and then there's what this seller purchased, which is a mystery auction. So a mystery auction, here's how it works. It is a variable priced listing, in so much that a buyer will go and bid a certain value. And then what ends up happening is the highest bidder wins a item. However, you don't know what item you will win until it is sent to you in the mail. Typically, pictures or a description will show you what is in the pool of items that you could potentially win. And theoretically, I think the way people anticipate this to work is that you will go ahead and bid $400, knowing that, in theory, hoping that this person will then send you a card worth $400. So that's the principle that I believe this is supposed to work on. Again, I don't participate in this type of stuff because of my inherent disbelief in it, but it makes sense from a very theoretical perspective. However, there's a lot more subjectivity that gets thrown into this stuff that really makes it something that you as a buyer should avoid at all costs. Now, the first reason that I think you should really avoid mystery auctions is because others help to determine the price that you pay, which is a strange concept to me. Now imagine this, you have $5,000 to blow and you go to X, Y, and Z's very famous store and purchase a mystery box. You've actively gone out of your way and decided to spend $5,000 on an item, but you alone made that decision. However, if you're in a bidding war with someone else and they bid $5,500, now if you want to win that auction, you have to pay $6,000. And I think anyone who's participated in an auction before knows that that's pretty much exactly how it goes. You might have in the back of your head a, quote unquote limit for how much you're willing to spend, but typically we are all willing to throw a couple extra dollars on top of that. But how is that fair to you as a buyer when you're bidding on something that you don't even know you're going to get? And that is the second item that I have to speak about why mystery auctions are the worst. There's no guarantee to what you're going to get. Some of my favorite listings on eBay include mystery item lots where you could potentially win base set Charizards, first edition Charizards, gold stars, and the realism behind these listings is laughable to say the least. Again, there is no guarantee that you're going to get that. So you can bid $5,000 hoping that this person is honest and chooses to send you a particular item. However, they could then turn around and just as simply say, oh, I don't have that item anymore, and you were bidding on a chance to win that item, not a guarantee to win that item. So they can turn around and effectively say, you bid on a mystery item. Why are you upset that you didn't get what you wanted? You sound like a spoiled little kid. And obviously you can see how that may be a big concern. You may end up bidding thousands of dollars and only getting a card worth $10, $15, $20 if it's in good condition, which is another great reason to avoid these auctions at all costs. Thirdly, and finally, third, whatever, is variable valuation. So this one is a little bit more nuanced of a concern, but it still stands. Think back to the PSA graded Latios cards. Now obviously there is a list price that we can all objectively observe on eBay. So we can all go online in a public forum, look at that card and say, okay, someone is asking to be paid $400 in order to purchase that card. Now, this auction that I recently held online shows that people are willing to pay about $200 for the card. So there is a bit of a discrepancy between the ask price and the list price. However, a lot of people are not in a rush to sell, so they'll put it up there. Hopefully, the thought is sooner or later, the value will either creep that way and it will become a bargain price for the card, or if they ever become desperate, they can make a deal. More importantly, it's part of one of many listings on a particular website. However, the problem is that with these mystery auctions, there's no guarantee that they're going to value the card fairly. So although we've established that people are willing to pay $200 for this card, people are listing or asking to be paid $400 for this card, someone could turn around and say, oh, well, I value it at $600, so that's why I sent it to you when you won the $550 mystery auction. Therefore, you're welcome. I just gave you $50 of added value. But inherently, that's not how this works, because in a free market, you could have paid $400 for that card to buy it now, or just waited for the next auction and paid something north of $200 and won the card. So because of that, that is a third great reason to avoid mystery auctions like the plague. Now, with that said, it should be noted that mystery items as a whole, so both mystery boxes and their fixed price and mystery auctions and their variable price, are not allowed on eBay. And a viewer wrote into us with a very interesting concern. Basically, they won an auction that was very deceptively written. It was written and titled as 1999 Pokemon Booster Pack and showed both a Shadowless base set Charizard and a Triangle Error Venusaur pack, both graded as PSA 10s. And this person bid on that, fully knowing that they had a chance to win both items. And the reason for that is because the title of the auction was very deceptive. It almost had no allusion to the fact that it was a mystery item. And because of this, this person bid and won the item, but was only sent the Charizard pack. So, interestingly enough, it became a situation where they had to open up a case with eBay after a very terrible reaction from the seller, where the seller basically proceeded to curse them out, use derogatory and discriminatory terms, and then sadly they had to have it escalated up to eBay. And then the seller, on top of everything else, chose to completely not go to the post office and pick up the package, and the seller was actually forced to not only issue the refund, so they had the refund hostilely taken out of their account and given back to the buyer, but on top of that, it was a really weird situation where in addition to everything else, they also had to not get the item back. Now, what ended up happening was the buyer and our subscriber was very cool. They were actually able to pay the person outside of eBay, but this just goes to show you how terrible eBay can be at times as well. eBay couldn't provide another method of delivery or mediate another method of delivery for the buyer to return the card to the seller. And the seller was threatening legal action against the buyer because the buyer didn't know what to do. And obviously, when you've been spoken to hostilely, when you've been discriminated against, and when you're basically being bullied online by someone who doesn't even know you, it's really difficult to kind of trust that if you send a card back, they're not going to still sue you, call the cops on you, or try to do something to you. So I kind of get where this buyer is coming from. It's a really difficult situation to be in. In theory, they did everything right that they possibly could, and they still ended up getting threatened with legal action. So because of that, it was a really awful situation for everybody involved. And you know, it just goes to show several things. eBay is not a perfect system, and sometimes there is no right or wrong answer here, because eBay flat out told our viewer and the buyer, you did everything you need to do. But then when threatened with legal action, eBay also said, oh, we've got your back. And then a different representative from eBay said, what do you mean? We don't have your back. We can't provide legal advice to you. So definitely watch your back when you're on eBay and you're doing these types of transactions, especially initiating refunds. Make sure everything is well documented. Make sure everything is clean and proper. In addition to this, when it comes to things like a hostile seller, make sure that everything is well recorded, well documented. Remain cordial. I hate sometimes dealing with people on eBay because they can be so awful, but these are just some of the tips that you should take into consideration when working on eBay, especially if you fall victim to a mystery auction. Now, here's the thing. Most of these mystery auctions will not be very descriptive. So like this on screen right now, 1999 Pokemon Booster doesn't really tell me much about what or how or why this is. In my opinion, this looks like a really poorly put together auction for both packs, and there's no allusion to the fact that this might be a mystery item. So it is very possible to fall victim for this type of trap. If you've ever been on the eBay mobile app, you also know that descriptions aren't as prominent as when you're on the desktop version of eBay. So again, another reason. And a third reason why you might not be checking your eBay descriptions is because sometimes they're god awful. And if you want any testament to that, look up first edition Charizard and start reading through descriptions. You will cry by the time you are done. because people are just so misinformed. So sometimes it is actually better to just do the research yourself, looking at the photographs and the title and hoping that the person who's selling the stuff is competent enough in order to put a relatively accurate title and take some good images. And even that can be a struggle for some sellers on eBay. Again, if you're a seller on eBay, all respect to you. I know some amazing people who sell on eBay, who sell on Instagram, but we do need to challenge the community at large to raise their standards as well, because obviously there is a lot of stuff to be concerned about when it comes to buying and selling and not having the ability to dictate what it is you're paying or what it is you're purchasing. Now, as I had mentioned before, both of these items are not allowed on eBay. It is my personal theory that eBay kind of acts like the Wild Wild West, hence the thumbnail. Basically, they don't really care if they sell a mystery box on eBay as long as it's from a reputable seller. So, you know, some of the bigger Pokemon shops are selling these things and they kind of just turn a blind eye. People are happy, eBay and PayPal both get a little bit of money, and the seller gets some money on top of that. So what do they care? However, this person, as well as several other people I know, are getting a lot more riled up over mystery auctions because they're getting stuff that is less than the value that they paid in a pretty bad manner. So because of that, I do feel like sooner or later, eBay will start cracking down on these mystery auction style items. But it should be stated that at any given point, if you fall victim to one of these kinds of scams, you can always say, this was not allowed to be sold on eBay, therefore I want my money back. Now, what should you do? You should immediately ask for a refund and initiate a case if your seller is not responsive. It should be noted that you have to ask for a refund first, and then after a period of time has timed out where the seller does not accept a refund, you're able to open up a case that eBay will arbitrate for you. During this time, make sure you are very clear about everything, make sure you keep good records of everything, and make sure all communications occur on eBay's messaging system. And then, after that, make sure to just assert that mystery items aren't allowed. Again, you should not be using this maliciously in order to mess with someone who sent you a genuinely, fairly evaluated item, or because you're not happy. And I personally think it's awful to try to do that. However, in a situation like our viewer, where basically they were just sent one of two items and there was no mention of mystery in the title or in the images, it kind of does make sense that, you know, they wanted their money back because they thought they were purchasing two, not one, items in the listing. So you can always assert that mystery items aren't allowed on eBay, and technically that should always win you the case unless there is some other circumstance to this. And again, I implore you all to use this type of what do you call it? I guess you could call it a technique of negotiating, but I implore you all to use this responsibly and only against those people who are genuinely trying to scam people on eBay. Now, in summary, mystery auctions aren't waffles and they aren't raffles, so don't get them mistaken. Waffles and raffles are where people will post up and say there are 10 spots at $40 each for this Latios card. Everybody pays $40 and then one of the 10 people will win that card. So they get the price they wanted, everyone pays significantly less than market value, and there's a chance you lose your money. That's kind of how that works. That is not equivalent to a mystery auction where you can pay full value for a card and still not receive that card. The second thing to remember about mystery auctions is that there's ambiguity to both price and the item, and this is inherently flawed since you can't rely on either of those to work. In a mystery box, it's a fixed price and the items can vary, and that kind of makes sense. In a regular auction, the price can vary, but the item is always going to be the same. But in a mystery item, it defeats the purpose of the common purpose of an auction, because you don't know what you're getting, nor do you know what you'll end up paying, assuming people keep bidding. So because both of those are variables, there's nothing stable about this type of sale on eBay. Now, finally but not least, I am going to go ahead and make a bold statement about an opinion of mine. I personally feel this type of sale, where you are selling a mystery auction, is a scam. Unfortunately, there are just too many variables and there are too many subjective assessments that need to be made in order for me to sincerely believe that a seller is going to get it right every time, all the time. Personally, I do believe that there are amazing sellers on eBay, and frankly, there might even be amazing mystery auctions going on right now. However, as I just said, there's a lot that needs to be assessed. Are you valuing the card correctly? Are people bidding correctly? Is there some idiot who's going to throw more money in the auction than either card is actually worth? There are so many different things that could possibly happen during an auction that, in my opinion, it's best to simply avoid these, because more likely than not, the seller could be acting negligently or maliciously, and then on top of that, you still might not get the card that you want. Rather, if you can very quickly research the different cards, I'm sure you'll find one on eBay at a rather decent price. And if it's something that is really that pressing that you absolutely need to have, reach out to the seller and simply see if they're willing to sell it to you, because chances are the whole purpose of this is to get these items sold. So perhaps they're willing to part with the item at a fixed price. And there's nothing inherently wrong with reaching out and asking if something is for sale. So in my opinion, that's the way to go about it. Now, this was a rather negative video, and unfortunately there are many scams and tricks and tips and things of that nature that occasionally need to be addressed. However, I will go ahead and put some good news out into the universe. I was able, because this person reached out to me and basically told me their story about how they interacted with this really awful seller and the mystery item scam that they fell for, I was able to offer them some money, and I bought the item that they purchased, so that's good. So I do feel at least a little bit better, because I was in a situation where I had a little bit extra cash laying around, so I was able to help someone who got scammed. The other thing is that we need to be on the lookout and vigilant for sellers like this. Now, I personally don't believe in, like publicly shaming and putting this person's name out there, but I will go ahead and say that you do need to be vigilant. So be mindful of the reviews that people are giving for various items. Be mindful of the way that people act. And if you get a weird feeling, feel free to let eBay know. Again, I've already mentioned in this video that eBay is not perfect, but hopefully they'll be able to do something other than let, a terrible seller who uses awful language continue to operate in eBay's seller system. And the best way to keep them accountable to that and to keep people accountable to that is to make sure that we are being very vocal about awful sellers on eBay and making sure that they're receiving negative feedback and losing business because they don't treat people with simple human decency and respect. So with that said, friends, thanks again for joining today's video. Stay vigilant out there when you're bidding on stuff. Like I said, descriptions suck on eBay, but all things considered, at least try and ask questions and poke and prod until you get everything that you need to know in terms of information. And then if you don't, well, don't bid. Other than that, if you liked today's video, feel free to subscribe. For all the new watchers who might have watched this through to completion, thanks for checking out today's video. We do tons of other stuff like this, so feel free to leave a like, leave a comment. If you all have a story like this, feel free to start a conversation down below. And last but not least, if you like today's video and you want to see more content like this, feel free to recommend or reach out if you have stories like this that you want someone to share for you. And more importantly, leave a like, comment, and subscribe so that I know that this is the type of content people want to see, so that I can go ahead and continue to make more of that. So with that said, friends, thanks for checking out today's video, and we'll see you real soon. Peace.